Welcome back to You Can't Make This Shit Up. Lobbying since 1886. I'm just kidding. We haven't been alive that long. I'm Kellen. That is David. We are your hosts today, and today we are talking about America's favorite people, lobbyists, and America's other favorite people, politicians. David, what's the story?
Oh, my favorite politics, politics, politics. So there's been an update, but let me get started here. 3 South Florida politicians, including Rene Garcia, Javier Fernandez, and Crystal Wagar, are challenging a law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis set to take effect December 31st, 2023. So
Oh,
it's in effect now. The
pass
law forces public officers to choose between their roles as public officers and their compensated lobbying positions. This could cause them to violate their constitutional rights as claimed by the plaintiffs here if they're unable to be an elected officer and also keep their jobs as lobbyists. This particular amendment, Amendment 12, approved by Florida voters in 2018, prohibits public officers from engaging in paid lobbying, with violators facing penalties. The legal challenge in federal court here the legal challenge argues for regulations consistent with the First Amendment. The law's impact extends beyond the plaintiffs, potentially causing political vacancies across South Florida and maybe all of Florida. Let's go.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. This isn't one of the on the simpler end of the issues. Lobbying is a double-edged sword. It's a good thing because politicians don't have time to research every issue that they need to legislate on in depth. As much as we like them to, they can't always. They can't be a genius on every single issue. Nobody is. Lobbyists can step in and give them some info. You have James Madison's pluralist heaven, meaning both sides will present their cases. Congress or state legislature, whoever's being lobbied to, can make their most informed choice. However, it can also go off the rails when lobbying money overpowers the process. So it's a fine needle to thread. And I'm not so sure this is the way to do it because even and you know me behind the scenes, David. You know I can't find enough bad things to say about Citizens United v. FEC, the Supreme Court case.
Okay.
However, what cases like that and what cases in that vein, as well as many cases before it, established very firmly is that political donations and lobbying is symbolic speech. And if you're directly lobbying, it is speech and it is protected. And so that's given that, whether I like those choices or not, from a legal perspective,
Mhm.
this law I don't think is going to pass. No, not that it's not
So,
going to pass, but I think it's going to. I think
yeah,
the challenge has a great shot of being successful
I
because
see
of
your
that.
point. I see your point. However, we're looking at a crisis right now because I'm looking at a list that was compiled by the Florida Association of City Clerks of individuals, local city council members across Florida who have resigned due to new regulations on financial disclosures. So this Amendment 12 passed, approved by the voters and passed in 2018 and now coming into effect and catching people with, their pants down here. We're seeing, I mean, this is just part of it, but I have here on my laptop, I'm looking at maybe so far mm, 30 resignations, maybe more. And this is an incomplete list.
Yeah. And to dear viewers out there, we've covered this issue before. Florida runs an incredibly tight ship, at times a ship that is too tight. Most Florida seats, about like not maybe I don't know if it's most, I don't remember the exact figure, but a lot of Florida seats are already vacant. And it's already a challenge to make the administration work with the staff that it has. We we can't really afford to lose a significant amount of staff right now, unless we were to hire a new staff. But the DeSantis administration has made it clear that they want a small government. There's a lot of concerns here. Will administrative functions slow down? Will they cease working? And what if it goes up beyond that strictly administrative level to the more legislative level? Then we experience even more issues.
Mhm. In one municipality, there's a mayor and 5 members of the council. 5 members have resigned, leaving one person on the
Jeez.
council. And part of the disclosure is that elected officials need to make is that they have to disclose their liabilities and assets over $1,000, and that requirement is already in place for county commissioners, school board members, sheriffs, you know, at that level. But for these small municipalities, their mayors and their council members, this is a different story. Now, how will it affect Orlando? We'll see. However, this has been in place. This was anticipated, and now the governor may have the ability to replace these vacancies or fill these vacancies with a person of his choosing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Florida if the governor didn't wake up with a new power, right? um,
And the DeSantis office was well aware of this.
yeah,
And
I'm sure.
I'm sure there are some stipulations where a city will call a special election, or the state will call a special election. It depends on each city
Yeah,
charter, if there is a charter, or what the rules are in place for their particular municipalities. But this could, if I was the governor, I would take advantage of this, start building my bench. And this is just amazing.
yeah. We said this on our episode about Chicago, but politics can be a blood sport. Politics is a blood sport,
Well, yes, it is.
and
Yes, it is.
this state is the perfect demonstration as to why. Because Republicans have been very successful in playing the blood sport, and the
Mhm.
Democrats have not, and the Democrats spill all their own blood because of it.
Yeah.
And
It's
things like this keep happening. It starts with so it will go to like the attorney general. The governor has his private army. The Supreme Court can now strike down citizen initiatives, and now the governor is filling vacant seats created by a law that, in all fairness, the citizens supported. But you really see a pattern with these things. You really do.
and some of these positions are voluntary. Small
Yeah.
towns, they have voluntary councils and so forth and so on. However, it's hard enough getting people interested in, one, politics, two, being involved in politics, and three, being involved in the leadership position in politics to begin with. And so we're seeing an opportunity for chaos or progress or not. However, this is something that it's a story that's still developing. Um, Again, the list I'm looking at, it's approximately 30 individuals across several municipalities across the state who have submitted their resignation because of Amendment 12.
Mhm. Yeah, and something. something I like to bring up a lot when we talk about like term limits, or we talked about term limits recently. One of the things I like to talk about is if you run your politicians out of town, who takes their place? And on a state level, it's usually not too challenging to find people, but a lot of these, like you said, are cities, they're local municipalities. The question of who's going to take their place is actually a very important one to answer. Are there people who are going to take their place? And if the governor steps in, will they know what they're doing? Will they be in touch with the local issues, or will they be just some basically just some guy? You know and that's a real concern that you have. The pool of leadership is very limited. It always has been, and it's
Mhm.
even more limited on a local level. And pushing your limits with that, it's playing with fire. And you have to make sure that people who on the ground level, on those local levels, who have to actually implement the laws, who have to deal with the finer issues,
Okay.
you have to make sure that they can run well and that they don't feel like they're being challenged, so why bother?
Okay.
It's a danger.
Here's an update, and a special shout out to Celeste Springer of My News 13. Shout out to Celeste Springer, who reported this story on X, and we retweeted or reposted the the original post of the resignations across Florida. And she has an update earlier last night here in Central Florida. There have been 8 resignations, one from Indy Atlantic, 4 from McIntosh, 2 from Orange City, and for our friends closer to home here in Orlando, 1 resignation from Windermere. So things are happening closer
And
and closer to home.
it's beginning to affect us here in Central Florida. It's not just a Miami thing.
And for those of you who are subject to those cities who are subject to an election to fill these vacancies, that's where we come into the picture. Jay in Washington. We are your political innovators. We have a vast amount of experience and expertise in managing local elections, and we are here and available for your consultative needs. So this is something that is again an ongoing story and an ongoing opportunity for civic-minded individuals who want to give back to their community and the political space. And we
Yeah.
encourage many people to get involved, be involved, and lead their communities. We need good people with great ideas from their community to lead those communities.
Yeah. If you have strong opinions about what happens in your area, why not make the decisions yourself? Why not be on the front lines making those choices? If you don't do it, maybe no one else will. And we want to make sure that the best people get into government, people who are dialed into their issues and who want to see real solutions. People have become dissatisfied and distrustful of the government, and we want to change that with the best individuals that we can find. Um, so
I
yeah,
hope
there's
to.
there's certainly an opportunity for anyone out there who wants to get involved but didn't know how, or didn't want to go up against an incumbent. There's less resistance now if you want to fill those seats.
I like the transparency in this. If someone is receiving fees based on their lobbying activities that could affect their decision making, I'm glad that these disclosures are made. Transparency is good, and I'm glad that people are doing the right thing and deciding, you know, their own best interests and resigning or staying. So um, I'm sure again there'll be more to this, and we're here as your political innovators. To further this conversation, shout out to Celeste Springer from My News 13. Great work. I'm looking forward to seeing the full report from the Florida Association of City Clerks and see how this pans out.
Yeah. Well, and that lawsuit that's coming about against the law, whenever it concludes, we'll surely cover that. And if you want to not miss it, you know what to do. You hit that subscribe button and you ring that bell. Hit the like button. Leave your comments. What do you think? Is it important to disclose our lobbying information? Should people be allowed to lobby and run for government office? Is the lack of leadership concerning, or is it a fresh new start? Where are we at, people? We want to know. With that, we are Jane Washington, your political innovators in Central Florida. Have a great day, everybody, and we are
Thank you.